Welcome back to the Revealed Report. I'm your host, John Wilson. Well, we missed a little bit here, and so we got music playing here. What's going on? All right, got that to stop. Sorry about that. Not really sure why the music was coming on, but nevertheless, we missed. Yes, last night I wasn't feeling too good. I was feeling under the weather, so it feels like it's been forever since I've been behind this microphone talking to this audience. But so we didn't get a chance to celebrate the Islamic Marxist victory in Zohran Mamdani. So Zohran Mamdani is the new mayor of New York City. And look, 24 years after Islamic terrorists attacked our country on 9/11, one that represents the Islamic and Marxist worldview is elected mayor of New York City. But keep telling me how America is a bigoted country. That's what we hear all the time. America is an absolute bigoted Islamophobic country that was built on white supremacy. And yet New York City, we find that an Islamic-leaning, Marxist-leaning mayor has been elected for New York City. Now, we have vowed to never forget 9/11, but sadly, we see that New York City has forgotten. On 9/12/2001, the day after the Twin Towers were attacked by Islamic terrorists, both Republicans and Democrats came together, putting their differences aside as Americans to pray together and to fight off terrorism. Now, though, in New York City, it has been taken over by Marxists and Islamists to bring death to America. They both come together because they want to uproot the system. They have no problem lying to those that oppose them so that they can flip the system inside out and upside down. And now we see that it is absolutely embedded in New York City. And I would imagine Lady Liberty, if she was actually a living being, would be crying and weeping right now. The very heartland where it was supposed to represent America, represent capitalism, represent the dominance of America in the world as the world power, as the very nation that offers the greatest freedom, the greatest liberties, with the greatest principles, now is being embedded by Marxist Islamists that want to run over our country and take over our country and uproot the system inside out. So we must ask the question, though, the people that helped Mamdani get elected, his donors, what wish list demands do they have that they want him to accomplish? Now, look at some of these things on this wish list. Divest city pensions funds from Israeli bonds and securities. Withdraw city funds that do business with Israel. In contracts that do business with Israel. Run the city-ran grocery stores with groceries that exclude any Israeli products. Investigate real estate agents who has been involved in what they call illegal sales of stolen lands in the West Bank. Get rid of all weapon manufacturers and transporters in the New York City metro area. Remove nonprofit statuses for any organization supporting Israel. Arrest Bibi Netanyahu if he comes to New York City. Now, we find that when Mamdani was asked about BDS, Zohran showed his support and defense of such. And let's play that clip.
Go back to Joe's previous question. I've talked to Jewish New Yorkers who like your message of affordability. They think it's the right message, but then they go back and they say, well, he supports BDS. He won't condemn the language of globalize the intifada. He seemed to play both sides after October 7th in his initial statement. They're deeply worried that you have some animosity for Jewish people and for the state of Israel. How do you respond to that?
Look, I think critiques of the state of Israel are critiques of a government, as opposed to critiques of a people and of a faith. And my job is to represent every single New Yorker, and I will do so no matter their thoughts and opinions on Israel and Palestine, of which millions of New Yorkers have very strong views, and I'm one of them.
Would BDS be the policy of your administration as mayor?
I've said that I would support and have supported nonviolent movements to bring about compliance with international law. And where this mayor has violated and looked to violate that kind of law, I would bring us back into compliance.
So yes.
No, I'm talking about compliance.
Okay.
Right? And I've said that I support BDS because this is a movement that is looking for that kind of compliance. We haven't seen it.
So there's a crisis in this.
So you can see that he supports BDS, which is to pretty much go against Israel in all regards. Just get Israel out completely. Don't let Israel have any transaction with the banking. Let them not have any investment. Do not allow them to do business in New York City. Do not allow them to have their groceries or their products inside of any of your city ran grocery stores. Go after anybody who has been doing any form of real estate over there in Israel because they deem it as stolen land, and go after any nonprofit organizations, remove their nonprofit status if they're investing or if they're helping anything to do with Israel. As you can see, this is an anti-Israel movement. This is an Islamic movement that has infiltrated into the United States of America. And it's amazing because Islam and Marxists have nothing in common with one another except for one thing: to uproot the West, to uproot the United States of America. There's a Fox News article out on this very interview that took place with Zohran Mamdani. That Fox News article is entitled "Mamdani Tells MSNBC I Support BDS After Saying He Will Be Mayor for Every Jewish New Yorker." Seems like a contradiction, right? I quote, New York City Democratic candidate Zohran Mamdani defended his support for the anti-Israel boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement in a Tuesday interview on MSNBC. During an appearance on MSNBC Morning Joe, Mamdani was asked about his support for BDS, the boycott movement against Israel. Mamdani said he supports it as a way to pressure Israel to comply with international law. Now, let me just stop here and say, what does that mean? That Israel must lose the war, that Israel has no right to defend themselves. This is a fancified way of saying that Hamas can do whatever they want to Israel, and Israel has no right to defend themselves, because if they do, they are deemed as being going against international law, and they are deemed as the evil ones. And what they'll do is they'll take any situation where maybe Israel made a judgment call or did something that could have been done better, and they'll use it as justification to try to support Hamas, because they want from the river to the sea, death to Israel and death to America, which is exactly what the communists want, exactly what the Islamists want. And Mamdani is the walking, breathing tabernacle of both of these evil ideologies that is trying to uproot the West, trying to uproot Israel, and trying to uproot America. These are anti-American people. These are anti the West, and they're anti-Israel. And what this all means is Israel has no right to defend themselves. Israel has no right to win the war. And if they have any land over there, it is stolen land, and it needs to be handed over to the Palestinians. The truth of the matter is, be not deceived. They do not want a two-state solution. They always say they want a two-state solution. You know why Israel doesn't give them a two-state solution? You know why President Trump is not really giving them a two-state solution? Because they understand what they really want over there. They do not want a two-state solution. What they want is to take more territory, strengthen themselves, strengthen their underground tunnels, strengthen their terrorist ability, and go after Jewish people again, go after Israel again, and take more land until they got to the river, to the sea, until they mass annihilate and exterminate the Jews. And yet somehow, some way, the Jewish people are always the ones that are boogeyman and evil. That's what Adolf Hitler sold to the Germans. That's what Adolf Hitler sold to his people, so that they would turn against the Jewish people. And that same spirit of hell that rose up in Adolf Hitler is rising up in our nation, turning the Israelites into bad people till Jewish kids are scared to even go to college campuses. And I don't know how Jewish people are going to do in New York City. I would get out of there like it was the plagues in Egypt. This is an anti-Israel movement. And mark my words, it will be anti the Bible as well. And it will be anti-America as well. Before you know it, they'll flip the history. And the ones that are on the conservative side of the aisle that are demonizing Israel and trying to rewrite the history of World War II, given enough time, and they'll be against the conservatives as well, completely, entirely, in helping aid the radical left to get back in power and to wreck and ruin all of our lives. You see, and I quote, continue the quote of this Fox News article. During an appearance on MSNBC's Morning Joe, Mamdani was asked about his support for BDS, the boycott movement against Israel. Mamdani said he would support it. He said he believes in this kind of pressure. Morning Joe co-host Willie Geist, I guess, I don't know, Geist, asked Mamdani how he could square his support for Jewish New Yorkers while promoting the BDS movement, noting that many in the city's Jewish community worry he harbors animosity toward them. BDS has also been condemned by the Anti-Defamation League as a simplistic, biased effort to delegitimize Israel and embolden anti-Semitism. And they're exactly right. I continue to quote, the candidate argued that his criticism of Israel lies with its government, not the Jewish people. I quote, I think critiques of the state of Israel are critiques of a government as opposed to critiques of a people and of a faith, he said. And my job is to represent every single New Yorker, and I will do so no matter their thoughts and opinions on Israel and Palestine, on which millions of New Yorkers have very strong views, and I'm one of them. Jewish leaders in New York City have warned that Mamdani would pose a threat to the city's Jewish community, and they are right. To be clear, unequivocal, and on the record, I believe Zohran Mamdani possessed a danger to the security of the New York Jewish community. Rabbi Elliot Cosgrove of the conservative Park Avenue Synagogue on Manhattan's Upper East Side told his congregation in October. But the problem is America is being turned against the Jewish people altogether, just like the Germans were turned against the Jews in 1938. It's the same exact spirit, and they're constantly using the media to try to demonize Israel to the point they're going to get Israeli people harmed even in the United States of America. There is an anti-Semitic movement, and I'm not using it in the loose terms that some use it. I mean, there is a true anti-Semitic movement on the rise. And I know there's some people that says I should not be this passionate about it, but I am. I remember living through 9/11. I remember the terrorist attack on our country. I remember it happened in New York City. I remember the day after when both Republicans and Democrats came together to fight for America's founding principles and to pray together. But I am living in a country now that doesn't even believe in prayer. And if it is prayer, now they support the very call, the prayer of Islam that sounds like Mecca right down in New York City. My question is, on 9/11, is it going to be a memory or is it going to be a celebration? Is it going to be don't ever forget, or is it going to be a celebration that the American system is dying in New York City? That's my question about this. Is it going to be a grieving moment to remember the hideous attacks? Or is it going to sound like Mecca as they're doing the Islamic prayer, and it's going to look like victory right in the United States of America by terrorists that want to destroy our country? All the Islamists are celebrating. They've been celebrating ever since the victory, and Jewish people now have to live in fear that they're going to be harmed. And somebody will say, well, that's hyperbolic language. No, it's not. If you were the Jewish people in New York City, I would be extremely careful. Now they have to question whether they even want to look Jewish when they go out into the city streets, because now there's people being radicalized to act like they're swine, that they're evil, that they're filth, that they're everything exactly what Adolf Hitler said. It does bother me that it's happened in the United States of America that was built on Judeo-Christian principles. And for anybody who does not believe that, does not know the history of our nation. And I find it amazing that there are some that says America was never built on Judeo-Christian principles. At the same time, they tried to rewrite our history and say we were built on white Christian nationalism. Which one is it? Because all it is a lie to try to get us to turn our back on the United States founding principles, turn our back on Judeo-Christian principles, and turn our back on Israel. And I know there be many that's not just going to call it out for what it is, but here we will cry loud and spare not. This is a overtaking of our nation, slowly but surely. The Islamists want to have 12 and 13 and 14 kids, while Americans are being told just to have one or two, and they're constantly trying to push Sharia law to its maximum maximum ability in our nation. They're constantly trying to embed in our nation. Somebody can say, well, you're Islamophobic. I'm not afraid of them. I just disagree with their beliefs. I disagree with their ideas, and it does not fit in the American founding principles. It does not. Now, can you be a Muslim and be here? Absolutely. Can you be? I have Muslim friends. I have one that shakes my hand and calls me brother. I love him to death. We're supposed to go out and have lunch together. He wants to introduce me to great Middle Eastern food. I'm looking forward to that. I love my friend. I have nothing against my friend, but I understand what America was built upon, and why is it they want to come into our country and demonize our country? Now, my friend doesn't. He loves America. He's a Muslim. He loves America. He loves our freedom. He loves me as a Christian pastor. We get along. We're friends. He calls me his brother. I love that. I have nothing against them, but I am going to defend the founding principles of the United States of America. And I believe that there is pressure for us to try to be so diplomatic, over diplomatic, and politically correct, not to call it out for what it is. This is victory to the Islamists, and this is victory to the Marxist leaning people. And both of them have one thing in mind. They hate Israel and they hate the United States of America. Now, this is a great article put out by New York Post entitled, "Forget About Mamdani's Illegal Donors. His legal ones are even worse." Which, by the way, I thought they're against billionaires. The truth of the matter is they're not against billionaires. They're just against conservative billionaires. They're just against those that believe in the founding principles of America, and they have conservative principles. That's the billionaires they don't like. They don't like the Elon Musk. They don't like the Donald Trumps, but they have no problem with George Soros. Trust me. Oh, by the way, they keep talking about AIPAC. AIPAC controls the politicians. What about the Muslim-leaning ones that are controlling politicians with their money, such as Mamdani? Now, let me quote, "The $13,000 that Zohran Mamdani seems to have accepted in illegal donations from foreigners isn't as sketchy as some of the legal money his campaign has taken in." When you combine Mamdani's two obsessions, socialism now and the elimination of Israel, with deep-pocketed political donors, you wind up with a toxic pool of reprehensible characters. For starters, let's play 2 degrees of separation between the campaign and the Chinese Communist Party. Relatives of China-based billionaire Neville Roy Singham, who funded multiple radical anti-Israel Marxist groups linked to the Los Angeles riots and Columbia University protests, have contributed thousands of dollars to Mamdani. Alicia Goodwin, Singham's niece, is a Mamdani donor, as well as a prominent far-left activist in New York City. She founded Jews for Zohran, much like chickens for Colonel Sanders. Entertaining, at least. Omar Hazan and Mohammed Javed, who each gave a cool $250,000 to Mamdani supporting PAC, made their dough as executives for tech firm AppLovin, which short-selling firm Culper Research alleges is a national security risk because Chinese national Hao Tang controls nearly 10% of the company. Then there's Zohran's Islamist fans. The Council on American Islamic Relations, CARE, via its Unity and Justice Fund, directed a full $100,000 into Mamdani campaign coffers. CARE was named as an unindicted co-conspirator in the notorious 2007 Holy Land Foundation terrorism financing trial. 5 Holy Land Foundation leaders were convicted of giving Hamas more than $12 million and were sentenced to decades in prison. In a 2017 song, Mamdani rapped, "My love to the Holy Land 5, you better look him up." So a year before the likely next mayor of New York City, now the mayor of New York City, was naturalized as a citizen, he was literally singing the praises of convicted Hamas supporters. Meanwhile, 5 staffers of the Islamic Circle in North America gave $1,300 in individual contributions to Mamdani's campaign. The ICNA is the North American branch of Jamaat-e-Islami, a South Asian Islamist group tied to the Muslim Brotherhood. That's a very nice group of people, isn't it? And banned in India and Russia as terrorist organizations. Former New York City ICNA head of Hashash Fujam Kwan was sentenced to death in absentia for his role of the torture and murder of 18 Bangladeshi intellectuals. Mamdani is no Manchurian candidate, a proud socialist and an open Israel hater. He's telling us forthrightly what he stands for. Bad enough that many New Yorkers like what they hear, worse than even more, just stick their heads in the sand about it. End quote. And so you can find that they say they're against billionaires. No, they're not. They're against conservatives. They're especially against conservatives with money, because conservatives with money have power and ability to influence and shape what's going on. That's what they hate. They don't have a problem with George Soros. They don't have a problem with CARE. They'll talk to us about AIPAC, the Jews, the Israelites. They're controlling all of the politicians, and America is actually not America first. It's Israel first. But they won't talk about CARE. They won't talk about Islamists that are funding politicians for Islamic causes, because it's one-sided. They don't talk about George Soros because they want his money so that they can destroy Israel and America. And I have a Revealed Dispatch article on his tax the rich idea, because, Mamdani, while he's hating on Israelites and he's trying to uproot the American way, he's also trying to tax the top 1% to fund his his city-ran grocery stores, his government-ran grocery stores that are exempt from any Israeli products, and also to get his free buses going. So he believes that if he taxes the top 1%, that's what's going to fund all of that. But just for the record, let me just let you know, the top 1% already pay 48% of all the taxes in New York City. They won't tell you that. They'll tell you that they need to pay their fair share. They're paying like half of the taxes there. So let me give you my Revealed Dispatch article called Tax the Rich, the Dumbest Way to Bankrupt New York City Faster. Ready? Here it goes. Here we go again. Another genius idea from the same political class that's been running New York City into the ground for decades. Let's fix our collapsing budget by taxing the top 1% even more, because obviously the people already paying for everything clearly haven't paid enough, right? I mean, let me quote Joe Biden. Pay your fair share. The city that taxes its lifeline. Here's a fun fact for the eat the rich crowd. The top 1% of New Yorkers pay roughly half of the city's entire income tax revenue. Half as in, without them, you don't have any subways, schools, sanitation, or those adorable rat control programs that never work. But rather than asking why the city can't balance its budget with record tax intake, the brain trust in charge decides the answer is, wait for it, more taxes. Exit strategy: Wall Street out, Walmart in. You can't tax what you drive out. The moment those millionaires and corporations realize they can keep their money and their sanity in places like Florida, Texas, or Tennessee, they're gone. When they leave, they don't just take their yachts, they take their employees, their payroll taxes, their corporate donations, their real estate investments, their startup capital, and basically everything keeping New York alive. What are you left with, New York City? An empty office tower, and for a lease sign hanging where the skyline used to shine. The great corporate exodus. New York's leaders act shocked when billionaires and big companies pack up. Really? Who could have guessed that hammering them with higher taxes, endless regulations, and anti-business rhetoric would make them leave? Who could have ever thought that? It's like slapping your landlord and wondering why you're being evicted. Already, major financial and tech firms have opened headquarters in Miami, Dallas, and Nashville, where the taxes are low, the weather's nice, and no one's lecturing them for making money. If this tax the rich nonsense keeps up, the only thing left in Manhattan will be chain coffee shops, TikTok activists, and a bankrupt city budget. The map politicians pretend not to understand. Here's the part they never teach in socialistic economics. When the top 1% leave, you don't just lose their extra tax rate. You lose all of it. Less income tax, less business tax, less real estate value, less everything. Meanwhile, your spending doesn't shrink. The subway still needs repairs. The pension still needs paving, or excuse me, the pensions still need paying, the streets still need paving, and the politicians still want to invest in every feel-good project under the sun. Results? A budget crater the size of Times Square at 3 a.m. Really check for the redistribution dreamers. You can't build prosperity by punishing success. You can't save a city by chasing away its investors. And you can't claim to fight inequality while driving the middle class into extinction through inflation, rent hikes, and collapsing job markets. But hey, at least the political speeches sound righteous while their city burns, right? The real fix? Grow. Don't grudge. If New York wants to thrive again, it needs fewer slogans and more sense. Lower taxes attract business. Business creates jobs. Jobs create revenue. Stable rules and clean streets attract families, not just tourists. And the wealthy, stop treating them like villains. They're the reason your lights still turn on. Stop biting the hand that feeds you. Maybe then New York can stop being the cautionary tale of what happens when envy becomes economic policy. And the final thought, you don't rebuild a city by taxing its builders. You rebuild it by unleashing them and allowing them to freely operate. But here's what's even worse about Zohran Mamdani. Zohran Mamdani doesn't just want to tax the corporations if their headquarters is in New York City. He wants to tax them if they're doing business in New York City. He don't care if they're in Miami. He don't care if they're in Texas. He don't care if they're in Tennessee. If they're doing business in New York City, then he wants them to be taxed. You know what's going to happen? They're going to quit doing business in New York City. And then when they're in poverty and the streets are full of crime, and guess what? All of this lawlessness is taking place, and Zohran Mamdani is more concerned about chest bumping Donald Trump than trying to crack down on the crime and trying to get the economy flowing in his city. While all of that is happening, Americans are going to, New York City people are going to be unhappy and forget this is the cause, this is the effect of voting for an Islamic socialist, or Marxist, or communist, or whatever you want to call them. So I wonder, next year's 9/11 ceremony will be kind of interesting. Will it be a memory or a celebration? Mamdani, of course, wants to call ICE illegal and illegals legal. That's the hallmark of the radical left. Call right wrong and wrong right. This is how they operate. Somehow, some way, they deceive the people, making you think that the right things are the wrong things and the wrong things are the right things. So the illegal migration, nothing wrong with that. I mean, it's right. But ICE agents that are trying to crack down on federal crime, wrong. Because what they'll do is they take just bad examples and they hyper focus on that and they play on people's emotions. So then people begin to soften up on crime and demonize the people that are trying to crack down on crime. So America, I think this is a sure tell sign. We just seen that blue states, there's now, these are blue cities and blue states. And so we expect some of this. I've been saying this for a while, and I'm going to say it again. I believe what is happening here is the over inundation of the news cycle. People have short-term memories. I believe people have forgotten how crazy, how bad it was under the radical left's administration. I think they forget that big tech was trying to silence us. I think they forget that they were trying to put drag queens inside of your little boys and girls' libraries and schools. That they were trying to trans the kids. What about in Loudoun County, Virginia, where the blue just won? Democrats just won. Anybody remember that it was the leftists that was defending the school that allowed the boy to say he's a girl to go in the bathroom and rape a man's daughter? And then when the parents were trying to protest against it, it was the radical left that made them national terrorists and put them on a watch list? That's how crazy it is under the radical left. But my concern is people forget so easily. We don't have any memory past 8 months. And then we swing right back to the very things that drove us to the other side. And that is my biggest concern when it comes to the future of America. I would like to think that the radical left doesn't get back in. But unless we call it out and stand up and fight against it, it's going to happen time after time after time. And I've been saying it for a long time. The enemy has not gone away. The enemy goes away for seasons, but he comes back with a vengeance. This needs to be a wake-up call that we can't lower our guard, and we can't quit working, and we cannot be silent and take ease in our life. We must fight for the Bible, for Jesus, for America's founding principles, for the Constitution, for the Bill of Rights, for the democracy in the Middle East, Israel. We need a restoration of rightness in our nation again. And it is my prayer that the Lord will help restore the soul of our nation. Because I believe people are easily forgetting how radical it was under Joe Biden's administration. America, I love you, and I'm praying. New York City, we love you, and we're praying for you. But you just elected a mayor that represents the ideologies that celebrate when our nation is going down. It's time for America to reestablish we have not forgotten. I am praying that this is not a sign of what could happen in the midterms, which I think by then, hopefully there'd be a little more stabilization, but more Virginia than, and I know that's it's kind of purplish, runs a little blue, but we need to continue to work hard. And we need to continue to remind the American people of what it was like under radical left. So if you would like to help our voice get out there so we can remind America, our subscriber base is going up every single day, and we are so very grateful for it going up every single day. Every single day, we are getting more subscribers. Some like the conservative political content. Some like the news and headlines. Some like the Bible content that we are presenting. Some like the faith and family content that we are presenting. Some like the kids content that we are presenting. The Revealed Radio Network is a unique niche of conservative cultural commentary, politics, news and headlines, Bible, theology, kids content, faith and family, because the ultimate goal of the Revealed Radio Network is to restore a love for Jesus, the Bible, and the United States of America, the founding principles of the United States of America, to combat the lies, the history revisionism that wants to tear our country down and take us away from in God we trust. It's our desire to defend those things that allows us to have a stable society, culture, raise great families with great kids, and ultimately have eternal salvation. So if you like what we're doing, we ask you, if you're new to this, please hit the subscribe button, hit that notification bell, share us with somebody else, leave us a comment. If you would like to support us with monetarily, we appreciate it so much. You can do such by PayPal, Reveal Publications at gmail.com. You can also purchase our book, my book, The Final Flame. It's a novel mystery thriller packed with a lot of suspense and clean, wholesome romance. And I want to say I'm so thankful for the staff of Revealed Radio Network, the other podcast hosts that are mostly doing Bible content, which, by the way, if you like Bible content, join me here soon at 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. Join me soon for the Oracle podcast, where I will be diving into Revelation chapter 6, but not in a way that most people are diving into it. And we will dive into the rich depths of Revelation chapter 6. And I believe that if you're a Bible believer, and a Bible lover, you will really enjoy the Oracle podcast tonight. America, I love you. We know the church will be standing tomorrow, for Jesus said, upon this rock, I have built my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it. However, the republic has not totally been burned down by tomorrow. I will see you tomorrow on the Revealed Report. Join me tonight on the Oracle if you like Bible content. God bless you, America. Now, let me just say this before we leave. I know tonight it was very passionate and it may seem kind of negative. I never lose my hope in Jesus. I never lose my hope in truth. And I never lose my hope of the United States of America because of our beautiful system that we have. The United States of America, a lot of times, will autocorrect. And so no matter how bad it gets, we have to call it out. Cry loud, spare not. Speak and preach against the evils of the land, against the deception that tries to uproot what's godly, holy, and true. But at the same time, we never lose our confidence and faith because it's not in man. So we can never be distressed, although we can be passionate about what we believe in. America, I love you. God bless you. I'll see you tomorrow night.